podcast. The Keep Leading podcast is dedicated to leadership development and insights. I'm your host, Eddie Turner, the Leadership Accelerator. I work with leaders to accelerate performance and drive impact through the power of executive coaching, masterful facilitation, and professional speaking. Today, I am broadcasting live on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Go ahead and hit that share button so that your colleagues can see this session later on in their feed. And in a coming weeks, you'll be able to access both the video and audio on Spotify and the audio on any distribution where you get your favorite podcast. Today, we're going to talk about a subject that is really important to leaders today, and that is redefining success. There's a need to redefine success because of the metrics we've used for so long to gauge success. My guest today has been both the person being advised and now is the advisor. She has worked at developing leadership programs and delivering them, but she's also served as an executive. She is phenomenally talented, an incredible background, and so I couldn't wait to get her here with me today. My guest is Carol Enneking. Carol Enneking is a professional speaker and the author of the book, The Rebalancing Act. And the Rebalancing Act has as its subtitle, Wisdom from Working Women for Success That Matters. And she's also the creator of an Oxford Talk. And this Oxford Talk is so powerful, it's been seen by over 1 million people. So for that reason and many more, I am excited to have Carol Enneking on the Keep Leading podcast. Carol, welcome.
Thank you so much, Eddie. I'm so glad to be here with you.
Well, thank you for joining me. Tell our audience a little bit more about your background.
Well, my background is probably best described as non-traditional. I started in a very traditional role with one of the largest oil and gas companies in the world. But from there, my career took a few twists and turns from being an entrepreneurial consultant for many years and then going back into corporate to practice what I'd preached all those years when I was a consultant teaching about leadership. And then I just left my corporate role again a few years ago and decided to write the book. So kind of in and out of corporations on both sides of the table, so to speak, and have pretty much always been based out of Houston, Texas. So I call that home and love living here with my family and wouldn't want to be anywhere else. So that's a little bit about me.
Fantastic. It's not often I interview someone from the hometown. So excited to have you with me for that reason as well. And it sounds like you have had to do a little bit of the rebalancing act on your own as you've made these transitions in your own career.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, a lot of the professional decisions that I made were driven by personal circumstances. For instance, I took myself off a really fast track job when I had my first child because my husband had a really fast track job too. And it was not going to work for us to be present with our children if we were both on planes all the time going all over. So that's why I started my consulting business, thinking I would just do it a few years while my kids were little because of the flexibility. And then fast forward 18 years, I had finally sold my company and gone back into corporate like I thought I would have done many years before. And that was, again, driven by some personal circumstances. I had a change. I went through a divorce. I wanted to be in a role that was more stable because at that point, my little kids had grown up and they were facing college. And we all know how expensive those times can be. And so I wanted the stability of a regular paycheck and benefits and all those kinds of things. So once again, my personal circumstances led to a career change. And matter of fact, when I decided to leave my corporate role 7 years after that, that was driven by personal needs as well, because
Hmm.
my body was basically rebelling against me for
Okay.
being that type A leader and always working myself into, an overtired, probably burned out, over functioning position. And I think my body was just finally saying, please don't do this anymore. So that led me to decide it was time for me to take a different path. So it's been a bit of rebalancing all along the way, and I've learned a lot, and that's why I wanted to write the book.
All right. So when we want to extract those lessons learned as you did this rebalancing act for the benefit of the women and men who love them listening
Yes.
to this conversation. You talked about being a busy corporate woman who then became a working corporate woman and then a stay at home mom. You talked about divorce and all the challenges that go with that, the rebalancing required, and then starting your consulting business, your
Mhm.
children heading off to college and now having to support them in college. Tell us how you redefined how you rebalanced and then were able to redefine what success meant to you at these different junctures.
Oh, goodness. Well, I think what I found in interviewing over 70 women for my book is that I wasn't alone in the way I approached
Mhm.
my definition of success. And that is that a lot of times, and I think this is for men too, but a lot of times success is defined for us, whether it's through our growing up years with the expectations our families have. You will go to college, you will get a good job, those kinds of things. And there's nothing wrong with that,
Mhm.
but I was just sort of living my life, checking the boxes of what I thought I was supposed to do. And my father was very vocal about what he wanted and expected of his kids, and he expected a lot from us. And so I just wanted to kind of live up to his expectations, I think. And I wasn't ever really stopping to think about what makes me happy, what really fills my cup, so to speak. And so you get to this point where you're successful by all the external measures of success, or by what you thought people expected you to do, but you're kind of thinking, is this all there is? Or why am I so exhausted by all of this? And so I think, we talk about having it all.
Mhm.
And I think that there's this tendency for us to feel like, to have it all, we have to do it all. And so, if you think about leadership, the people who surface as leaders tend to like challenges, they're determined, they're smart, they're focused, they're dependable, and all those things are wonderful characteristics. But the very things that led to your success and gave you those results start to erode the results when
Mhm.
you don't know when to let up.
Now
And
that have it
so
all theory has been around for quite a while.
it has, it
S
has. And I mean,
Would you say that it still is something that serves people well to have that theory as an operating principle in their life?
well, here's the thing. I don't think you can have it all at the same time.
Okay.
And I think that's the misnomer. I think it's kind of a crisis of our own making when we end up burned out and exhausted, because
Mhm.
we give that same energy to every single thing in front of us without really discerning whether it's the right thing to give energy to.
Mhm.
So, for example, I have a friend who's a CPA. And so we would laugh because every time there was a volunteer organization, they would always ask her to be the treasurer. School PTA, sports teams, women's organizations, whatever it is. And she was a working full-time mother, full-time working mother. And so everybody wanted her to be the treasurer, and she would do it because she could. And she would think, well, I can do it. I can probably do
Mhm.
it faster and better and easier than other people. So I'll just do it. And then she would have the hardest time finding a replacement, because you got to find another CPA who's willing to take them all. And, the rest of us can do that work too. But it's just funny how we just take things on because we can do it and we think, well, we may as well do it. And it might even be guilt.
Mhm.
And that is one thing that I think really differentiates how women approach these things from how men approach these things. Because I think men are better at saying no and not feeling the guilt, and men are better at compartmentalizing. So, when I'm at work and I'm a guy, I'm thinking about work. I'm getting
Mhm.
my work done. But the women are sitting there at work thinking, how am I going to get dinner on the table? I don't want to forget that Junior has baseball tonight. All those things are going through our head all the time. And then we feel this obligation to do so much for others. And I think some of the things we take on are things that the men in our lives would just say, do you really need to be doing this? Is this really serving you? And so for me, when I finally started listening to those questions and listening to that inner voice saying, don't try to do it all. Don't try to do everything. You don't get it all by doing it all because you're not
Excellent.
really focused on what matters at that point.
So you can have it all, but not at the same time. You can have it all, but don't do it all.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And
What a wonderful
have
way to redefine success.
yeah, and I think it's more about having all that matters. So
Mhm,
qualify what it even is and
mhm,
what all even is, because I'm much more focused on the things that matter to me, and I have given up trying to
mhm.
do the things that don't.
Excellent. And
It's
it
very
sounds like
freeing.
as you made the transition talking about how you, grew up in a demanding household with your father who had set expectations and how other people set expectations for all of
Mhm.
us, right? That we're often defining what success is going to be based on what the vision is they have, what they've drawn
Right.
and shared. So it sounds like you went through a period of what Keegan Leahy would say are uh, is self-authorizing. You
Yes.
authorize yourself to redefine what success is going to look like for you and pursue that path.
Yeah. And you know what's funny about that is it was a circumstance that was thrust upon me. And so,
Mhm.
not to get too personal, but I ended up finding out my husband was having an affair. And I said, bye. I'm not up for that. And so all of a sudden, here I was, a single mom and having to provide in large part for the children due to some other circumstances. And it was the first time in my life that I finally realized I couldn't care about what everybody else thought about me. Because for some reason, even when I didn't have it all together, I felt like I needed to look like I had it all together. And then so much was going on in my life, and my priority was my children and just getting through that difficult situation. So I couldn't worry about what the gossip was or what people would say about me getting a divorce or anything like that, which sounds so silly, but I do think that people in the back of their minds, and I definitely found this in the interviews I did with other women, they worry about how they're perceived by everyone else. And when you wake up someday and realize I'm doing the best I can at this
Mhm.
moment, given the circumstances I'm in. And that's all I can ask of myself. And people who will judge me, that's not about me. That's more about them. And in doing that, I was able to let go of so many of those expectations everybody else had for me. And I was able to start thinking about what are my biggest priorities? What am I going to pour my efforts into? And
Mhm.
what am I going to say no to? And by saying no, you can say a bigger yes to the things that matter more.
Well, if I'm a woman listening to what you said there, and I'm finding myself in that circumstance, and I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, I am concerned about what other people think. I do need to have the look like everything is okay. We live in the Instagram generation. I cannot allow people to see me as vulnerable.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
Well, I mean, it's so wonderful that the word vulnerability has become more of our common language these days.
Mhm,
But I think we have to watch what messages we're taking in and what we're
mhm,
believing about ourselves. And it's funny because when we started this conversation, you said this notion of having it all has been around a long time. And it has. When I was a kid, we had, very few TV stations, and we would watch the commercials because we couldn't fast forward through them. And we had commercials saying things like, I can bring home the bacon,
young
fry it up
people
in
who
a
might tune
pan.
into this have no idea what you're talking about,
Yeah, there's
Carol. It's
there's
only old people
yeah,
like us.
real commercials. But there was this one where this lady would be singing and she'd be frying up bacon in a pan. She'd say, I can bring home the bacon, as in
Yes.
money, job, meaningful work. Fry it
Yes.
up in a pan, as in, I'll cook you dinner and never ever let you forget you're a man, because that's going to be your priority at the end of all that. And,
Yes.
children weren't mentioned,
Yes.
interruptions weren't mentioned. So that
I
was our
remember that
message.
commercial.
Yeah, that was about what it looked like to have it all. And now you
Mhm.
bring up Instagram and
Mhm.
all the social media platforms. Yeah, the messages have totally changed, but the
Yes.
messages are still there saying, this is what it ought to look like when you're traveling. This is how to work like a boss and party like a rock star. And this is how to, throw the perfect children's birthday party. And people have this false sense that that's what life looks like. Well,
Mhm.
nobody Instagrams about, well, maybe a few people get authentic and vulnerable and talk about real life, but a lot of people put forward a portrayal of success that's not real, not attainable, and we need to recognize that, and we need to stop competing in those environments. It sounds so silly, but I had a woman in one of my women's workshops who said that in the preschool class, there were lots of parents that worked and the kids were going to preschool, and the parents would pack their lunches every day. And there was one mom who would pack gourmet bento box lunches for her three
Mm.
year old and would have all these cute little cutouts for the fruits and vegetables and all these special little sandwiches and things. And that's really cute, and if that's what brings you joy, great. But all of a sudden this woman was like, oh, I'm the mom whose kids don't have the gourmet lunches, and she was feeling like that was a pressure on her. And the
Mhm.
funny thing is, she said, well, my husband tries to help me, and I said, well, what did he say about this lunchbox war thing, this feeling that you need to do more in the lunchbox area? And she said, oh, he said it was so stupid, I should just let that go. And the whole room laughed. And I said, well, do you think maybe he might have had a point? And, we've got to decide what messages we are going to believe. And
So
I
part
am
of
here to
redefining
tell.
success is what message we're going to accept, and realizing
Mhm,
that what we see visually is not always the reality, and that there are
yes,
more people that are feeling like you, looking like you, dealing with your circumstances than what you might uh, give credit to. So you don't need to feel
right.
alone. Redefine your circumstances. Redefine success based on your present circumstances, not someone else's
Yes.
circumstances, be it the bento lunch boxes for 3 year olds in the classroom, or you in your new situation that has changed as a result of circumstances beyond your control.
Yeah. And I'm here to tell you, when it comes to the working mothers out there
Mhm.
and worrying about the lunch boxes and the, treats for the soccer team and all that kind of stuff, your kids are not going to remember that. It is not that big a deal. They'll remember the big things. And now my kids are 26 and 28. I asked them, I said, did you ever feel like my career was more important than you? Did you ever feel like I wasn't there like I should have been or could have been? And they're very real with me. They would tell me the honest truth, but both of
Mhm.
them, and I asked them separately, and both of them said no, no, because they remember the big things. I was there for most of the big things. And so let the little things go and know what it is that matters most to you. And there's some exercises that can help people figure out what matters most. But part of being a leader, part of showing up that way, is knowing what you value most and moving toward that and letting go of the noise that's out there. And there's so much noise.
Indeed, there is. Well,
Yeah.
cutting through the noise is your message that you delivered in a powerful Oxford talk. Now,
Yeah.
many people have heard of a TED Talk. For those
Yeah.
who may not have heard of an Oxford Talk, can you first tell us what an Oxford Talk is?
Yes. Well, it's similar to the TEDx or the TED platform. And the gentleman who started Oxford Talks is based out of Oxford University in Oxford, England. He is a former TED producer, and he wanted to do something more accessible, and it's ideas worth doing, not just
Mhm.
spreading, but it's things you can do. And so he's built quite a platform. It's an honor to go there. You're in the oldest university in the Western world, I believe. And it's just, you're on hallowed ground,
Mhm.
and you're
Yes.
speaking in the business school and you're speaking about business topics. And the idea is that you, in a very brief period of time, give people some things they can do on the topic at hand.
What an honor for you to be able to speak at such a place like that. That is simply
Thank you.
fantastic. So,
It was
congratulations on getting
amazing.
the honor to do it. And the fact that over 1 million people have seen it is even better. I mean,
Yeah.
mentally, how does that register with you?
Well, I was pretty amazed and surprised. It's actually well over 2 million now. It
Is it
just
over to?
keeps
I'm off
it
of my
keeps
count. I'm sorry.
growing. No, no, no. Well, I mean, thank you, but I mean, I guess it's resonating because you have something, and it's the Oxford Talks people
Mhm.
that are out there promoting it. It's not like I'm paying for ads or anything like that. Like I'm not getting personal kickbacks from
No,
doing it.
that's
I
the
know.
beauty of those type of platforms, right? It is
Yeah,
not you aren't paid and they aren't paying you. They aren't paying uh, for the views, right? As on
yeah,
other platforms, and so that's why I said it says something that you have truly cut through the noise with your message. That
yeah.
organically, that number of people are viewing it.
That's what's crazy because you can't outsmart the algorithms in
No.
this area. So I suppose it's resonating, and it's such a simple message. And sometimes, my messages are just what a lot of people would probably say is common sense. But
Give us the
we
essence of that message that you delivered that resonated with so many people.
and just because something's simple doesn't mean it's easy. We all know more about nutrition and exercise than our daily habits would indicate that we know. I mean, it's not about what you know, it's about how you're practicing it. And so I think I like to make complicated things simple and make this accessible for people because I'm on a mission to help people redefine success before it redefines them.
Mm. You want to help people. You're on a mission to help people redefine success before it redefines them.
Yeah.
What a powerful mission that you are on, Carol Enneking.
Thank you.
Well, Carol, people listening to us have heard you share some interesting gems that they can take with them today. What's the one gem, if they don't remember anything else, that you want to make sure they take with them?
Be careful what you say yes to, and recognize that everything you say yes to takes time. And if you can say no, it enables you to say a stronger yes to the things that matter. So know what matters and let that guide you. And then one other thing I would just say, because we're talking about leadership, is that these same principles apply to businesses. I worked with our executive team, my colleagues at a very large company very recently in my last role. We said we had 3 overarching goals for the year, just 3. And some people look at me like, how can you just pick 3 things? But I said, let's pick 3 goals that are most important to achieve our strategies. And every employee's personal goals will line up with these 3 priorities.
Mhm.
And we outperformed all plan expectations 2 years running. So I'm here to tell you it works, but companies, it's the same problem. They want to do it all and in the efforts to have it all. And you get so fragmented and work just gets overwhelming for people. They get burned out. So companies need to discern what's most important and prioritize as well and say no to some things.
So even companies can have it all, but not at the same time. They can have
That's
it
right.
all, but not do it all.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
nice. Very nice. On the Keep Leading podcast, I am always interested in quotes or pieces of wisdom that you have heard as a leader that helps you keep leading.
Yes. And it's funny. I love quotes too. And I could probably share a couple dozen that you and I both probably know and love. But I think the one that guides me the most is the road to success is always under construction. And I always laugh because being in Houston, Texas, and navigating I-45, that must be a road to success because it's always under construction. And I've lived here 50 years. Um, but, the minute you think you know it all, the minute you think you've got the answers, that's when you can learn some of the most amazing things. And so, being that continuous learner and recognizing that life is changing all around you and you want to keep moving forward, that's why that quote is so inspiring to me, because sometimes it's the moments when I think I know it all that I am humbled the most and learn the most. So I love that one. I think it was first credited to Lily Tomlin, of all
Mhm.
people, comedian. So, yeah, I think Arnold
Well,
Palmer
there's
likes
there's
to say it.
truth in there's truth in laughter at times, with the beauty of
Yes, that's
what
right. That's
comedians
right.
give us, right? And I love that, and I'll piggyback off that by saying, the CEO of Microsoft is credited for saying that when he came to the organization, he turned it from a know-it-all to a do-it-all organization. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, from a know-it-all to a learn-it-all organization,
Learn it
and
all.
that
Yes,
and that
yes,
changed the culture. Yeah, so I love that
yes.
quote. So thank you for sharing.
And he's a great visionary. I think, yes, I love that.
Yeah, he is. And for folks who are listening and they're like, I want to learn more about Carol, where can they learn more about you?
Easiest place is on my website. It's carolenneking.com, and they can buy my book. It's on anywhere you buy books, but there's also a link to it on my website. And there are some free resources on my website to help people think about what their legacy is. That's usually the way I like to frame what matters most. So there are
Mhm.
some tools they can use to help determine what their legacy really is and what their highest priorities and lifetime goals are, because it's a lot easier to discern what to let go of when you're very clear on those priorities. So they are welcome to join the community and access those free resources as well.
Very well said. And so, for those of you who are watching this broadcast, you see Carol and her name spelled on the screen. For those of you who will hear the audio, it's CarolEnneking.com. Visit her website, connect with her on LinkedIn or your favorite social media platform, learn from her, check out that book she's got on available on Amazon as well. Carol, thank you again for being a guest on the Keep Leading podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Eddie. I enjoyed it.
And so did I. That concludes this episode, everyone. I'm Eddie Turner, the Leadership Accelerator, reminding you that leadership is not about your title or your position. Leadership is action. Leadership is an activity. It's not the case of once a leader, always a leader. It's not a garment that we put on and take off. We must be a leader at our core and allow it to emanate in all we do. So, whatever you're doing, always keep leading.